So I'm joined by Mark Walford, our trainer, and obviously we're speaking in advance of Definitely All Right second run. Mark, thanks ever so much for finding the time to come and chat with us. Currently not sat anywhere particularly exciting, but watching your son practice cricket, I understand. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, a bit of junior cricket.
Okay. How old's your son now?
He's 6.
6. Okay. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
We really appreciate you finding the time to talk, and we just wanted really to find out what you've been doing with Definitely All Right since his first run. So what would have been the
Yeah,
routine? What would you have done differently or exactly the same?
fairly much the same. I mean, he came out of the race really well, which is, it made it easier for him only travelling half an hour down the road. There wasn't too much travel involved, which is less stress for them. So it was a nice first outing for him. He'd eaten up that night. He had 2 days where he just got a bit of turnout in the field, and then we just got him back into the routine, which I like to do. It's also settled into a routine, so that's quite important. So yeah, he's just been cantering about 6 furlongs every day since then. We haven't done any really fast work particularly, but he's done everything really nicely. So I think mentally he's sharpened up a lot. Physically he was reasonably fit. He mentally is sharpened up for the experience.
Okay. And so Newcastle finishes on an incline. So it's quite a tough 7 furlongs or any distance race really, because it has that uphill finish. What will be your instructions to Dougie? How would you like to see the race pan out for him?
Yeah, well, Newcastle, everyone will tell you that tends to be the horses come from the back that run well, and the ones because it is just a gradual incline all the way, and it's really tough for a horse to make all the running there, get out in front and stay there. So with that in mind, I'll be telling Dougie just to jump him out the stalls. He might come out a bit slowly, that'll be fine, and we'll just drop in near the rear of the pack. I don't mind if we're last to start with. Just get him relaxed, and then just try and pass a few horses at the end. Whereas he went great for the first half at Thirsk, and then he sort of fell in a bit of a heap because he'd done quite a bit early on. Whereas this time, hopefully he'll run the race the other way around. We'll take it steady to start with, and then get him passing a couple of horses late on. I don't expect him to be placed, but if he can beat a few home, run a little bit better than last time, that'll be a nice bit of progression.
Okay, perfect. And so we know, obviously your philosophy is for horses to improve gradually from run to run. So this time, slow start and then hopefully, kind of come through the pack a little bit. So a mid-division finish would be very good success, and beating a few home would be still a nice kind of bit of learning.
Yeah, exactly. If the 11 runners, if he finished 5th or 6th, I'd be very pleased. And not really about his finishing position. I'd just like to see him finish the race a little bit stronger than last time. I mean, Dougie was very easy on him last time. Didn't really ask him for too much of effort. This time, we will give him a couple of taps with the whip just to get his mind on the job, and just try and get that little bit extra out of him without giving him an unduly hard race. There's no point if you can't win. There's no point a horse having a really hard race at this point of its career. So we'll be mindful. We don't want to give him a hard race, but we do also want him to, learn a bit more than last time.
Sure. And I mean, some of our owners will be less familiar with horse racing and less familiar with the kind of the psychological changes in horses. So when you kind of see him learning from it and becoming a bit more tuned in, what would that kind of look like in terms of his performance, or what will he be receptive to?
Yeah, so what you need to be a little bit careful of with their second race, they know what it's about. You need to keep him nice and calm at the races, because last time he went, he didn't know what was happening. This time they do remember, they're in a racing environment and they know it the second time. So especially at Newcastle, as I mentioned, what you don't want a horse is jumping out the stalls, running too what we'd call free early on, pulling at the jockey, trying to go faster. because that's what can happen second time. So they're a lot more switched on to the racing environment, and that's why I'm really keen to just get him tucked in behind horses and relaxed in the first part of the race, because otherwise, if he's almost too sharp out, we could end up fading badly later on. So, but yeah, it's a real difference from a horse having their first run to their second.
Sure. And also we're switching from going around a bend at Thirsk to running in a straight line for the full duration of the race at Newcastle. Again, because not everyone will be familiar with the impact of that. Can you just say a little bit about what difference it makes to a horse and to a jockey to be racing around a bend versus racing in that straight line?
Yeah, I think when you're on a straight course, it makes it more of a test of stamina because there's no let up. You know, it's the same pace all the way. Whereas sometimes, especially with probably more so with older horses, they can go very fast if it's round a bend, and then they get to the bend, steady up, get a breather in, and then kick on off the bend. So it's it can be running two halves a little bit, especially Thirsk, because it's sort of 3 furlongs down to the bend, a bit round the bend, and then 4 up the straight. Whereas at Newcastle, obviously, it's 7 furlongs in a straight line. So it's, but they'll probably go a little bit slower over the straight mile, which I think will suit him. It will give him a chance to finish better.
Okay, great. And so final question, Mark. Obviously, we've kind of run around a bend, we've run straight, we've got the incline at Newcastle. Do we start to kind of learn what might be his preferences from these different configurations on the track as well? Or is that less significant, you think, in terms of our knowledge of him?
Yeah, well, to me, he's a horse. He'll be able to handle any track once he's properly educated. I already know that from his training, how balanced he is at home. So, like I say, it wouldn't bother me in the future whether it was straight, round a bend, undulating, flat. I really do think he'll handle any type of track. What I'm really trying to find out about with him is what distance we're going to want, because that's what I'm a little bit unsure of. Obviously, we raced 7 at Thirsk, 7 furlongs again. I mean, it's possible. I think he'll end up wanting a mile, but it's not completely out of the realms of possibility that he might want to drop back to 6.
Sure.
So that's the main thing I'm really trying to learn in these early races.
And would you judge that for yourself based upon the physical impression that you get through the race, or would you rely on Dougie's feedback to get that?
Yeah, well, a bit of both. I mean, Dougie's feedback at Thirsk was he could possibly drop back to 6, but I think he'll probably end up wanting certainly 7 or a mile, possibly even further. But because you don't race them, you know, we'll never do 7 furlongs at home absolutely flat to the boards in a race situation, because if you do that, you just end up the horses getting too wound up, and you know you're doing too much with them. So you leave that to the race course, really. So that's that. Like I say, it's a little bit. It's a hard thing to find out what distance that is going to be an ideal. From his pedigree, there's mixed signals, and I think on the track so far there's mixed signals. So, but we'll get there. We'll work it out after a couple of runs.
Okay, perfect. Well, look, thanks ever so much, Mark. Really appreciate your time, and we'll look forward to your feedback after the race. Thanks very much.
Great. All right, thanks, Russ.
Cheers.
Cheers.